Hey, it's Lou, and here's the thing. The 21st century is becoming the age of the freelancer. Conventional careers, generally associated with a long-term commitment to a single employer, are less prevalent than they used to be. Meanwhile, there's been the rise of the irregular economy, aka the gig economy, the independent workforce, free agents who bounce from one short-term opportunity to the next. One study estimates that half of the US workforce will be freelancers by 2027. In the EU, the number of freelancers grew by 99% between 2000 and 2014. The question is, when you balance money with lifestyle, are these workers better off than those in traditional careers? And is the gig economy a choice or a trap? For a lot of people, being an employee sucks. You're subservient to a boss, often engaged in repetitive tasks, and if you're middle class or below, your purchasing power has been stagnant for decades. Diane Mulcahy, a lecturer at Babson College, told me traditional work doesn't work for everyone. On the other hand, if you're an employer, well, actually, that kind of sucks too. Staff is often inflexible, slow to learn new skills or break old routines. They come with overhead expenses and expectations about holiday bonuses. So there's dissatisfaction on both sides. Luckily, an alternative work arrangement has never been easier. A flood of digital platforms seamlessly connect ready and able hustlers with consumers looking for a service. Things like getting a ride or getting your hedges trimmed. But keep in mind, the gig economy isn't just about errands and low-skilled laborers. Business consultants, accountants, and other highly educated professionals often do contract work. Then there's the creative class of writers, designers, and artists. Overall, this ecosystem, which skews young, is particularly attractive to employers in the digital economy because the talent pool is global. A developer in New Delhi can design a website for a startup in New York. Everyone has the ability to be a virtual migrant. My buddy, a video editor, is planning to move to the Dominican Republic and do all his work remotely. His slogan is, earn dollars, spend pesos. Free from the typical 9-to-5 grind, independent workers like him can set their own hours. Their lives aren't dictated by the whims of the scheduling manager, as they would be at a place like a fast food restaurant. They can carve out time to chase dreams, prioritize children, or ease their way into retirement. Freelancing in this way is about gaining control. Now, this flexibility comes at a price, but it's not necessarily money. Professor Paul Oyer, an economist at Stanford University who drove an Uber while studying the gig economy, estimates that workers in the gig economy make 6% less a year, but they make about 15% more per hour. This indicates that they're more productive. Makes sense. When you're on staff somewhere, you're often sitting around doing nothing, watching the clock. But when you're self-employed, you see a more direct relationship between effort and income. The problem is managing the ups and downs of that income. People in a traditional job get a steady paycheck, but the income of independent workers is not guaranteed. Over the long run, it will likely level out, but there might be short-term shortfalls. A 2017 study found that 63% of freelancers had to dip into their savings at least once a month versus 20% of full-time employees. This instability can have psychological effects. Dr. Guy Standing, professorial research associate at SOAS University of London, told me freelancers often feel like they're not working enough. There's this persistent nagging guilt that they should be logging another Uber shift or completing another chore via TaskRabbit. A lot of people actually crave the structure of a workday. It's how they organize their lives. But it's not like staff jobs are guaranteed. Aran Sundarajan, a professor of business at NYU, told me because of the waning power of labor unions and collective bargaining, full-time workers don't have a ton of leverage anymore, at least here in the US. Most people can be fired at a moment's notice with little or no severance. Consider this. Oyer told me that in the wake of the recession, independent workers saw income reductions of about 10 to 20%. That's no good. But compare that with all the people who got laid off from staff gigs. Their salary went from 100% to 0% over the course of a single shitty meeting with HR. There is, of course, a glaring disadvantage to freelance work, especially in the US. That's the absence of vital benefits like health insurance and paid family leave. Without the protection of these safety nets, freelancers are vulnerable to sky-high premiums or hospital bills that could wreck their finances. In addition, there's the big gripe I had when I was a freelancer. No paid time off. This can lead to burnout. It also ruined every vacation I ever took. I kept thinking about the money I was losing by not working. Full-time employers are also the way most people access retirement plans like 401ks. No wonder, then, that fewer than 1/3 of people who derive most of their income from freelancing are setting aside money for retirement. Full-time employees save at a much higher rate. However, Mulcahy told me there's no organic reason that benefits like healthcare and easy access to retirement plans are tied to full-time work. She called that system a historical artifact that's propped up by government subsidies, at least here in the US. We may take that arrangement for granted, but it's a complete construct. It's nowhere in the natural order of things. So Naresh told me the challenge is to create a 21st century method of delivering benefits that doesn't filter everything through a full-time employer. That's why Dr. Standing is a big advocate of universal basic income, or why others support government-funded healthcare for all. Some people feel the gigging platforms should chip in to provide worker benefits and pay for worker protections like unemployment insurance. Because the thing is, even with the shortcomings of the gig economy, and don't get me started on companies that fail to pay freelancers in a timely manner, most people in the independent workforce are happy to be there. According to a 2016 McKinsey report, quote, most independent workers have actively chosen their working style and report high levels of satisfaction with it. And obviously the system is working for employers too. The innovation economy in particular likes nimble companies that can tap into elastic workforces. Apple, for instance, directly employs fewer than 10% of the 1 million people who design, make, and sell their phones and computers. Critics, however, often say the gig economy is a race to the bottom. Sure, the upper echelons of the independent workforce have the luxury of choosing this flexible lifestyle. They can jack up their rate to cover insurance. They can fall back on savings or rely on the income of a spouse when times get tough. But low-skilled working stiff, without those support systems, are being pushed out of full-time jobs and towards short-term work that doesn't help with career advancement. That same McKinsey report categorizes 30% of the independent workforce as either reluctant or financially strapped. The majority of them would rather have full-time jobs. And because of transparent pricing on platforms like Upwork, and because so many people are entering the freelance workforce, workers have to keep lowering their rates to find opportunities. Many folks cobble together a variety of short-term jobs and still fail to make ends meet. To many, this inequality is intolerable and unfair. But Euler told me it's the result of much larger trends outside of the gig economy. Things like automation and globalization are what's hurting the working class. In fact, he argues that you can view the gig economy as a sort of safety net in its own right, a way to earn extra income and fight back against the forces that are squeezing the little guy. So in the future, perhaps a happy medium can be found, a labor market that allows individuals to explore their potential through a series of different jobs without foregoing access to something as vital as health insurance. And if companies are saving money by employing fewer full-time workers, maybe their taxes should be increased to fund a more accessible safety net. Perhaps we, the consumers, will have to pay a tad more on Uber or DoorDash so that our service providers have a measure of security. Because this new labor model is here to stay, it's growing. And we should make sure gig workers don't feel like disposable workers. Okay, I'm gonna go live my life.